Evening everyone, and thank you once again for coming along and taking the time to come along to our webinar tonight. Myself, Graham McLean, the Head of Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland, and John Ireland, who is the Health, Safety and Wellbeing Officer with Forestry and Land Scotland. In our agenda tonight, we're going to have a quick cover off of which trails are open now, a good wee update from the Highlands. We'll look at Forestry and Land Scotland working with trails associations, particularly in this next phase, to look at assessing the damage and going through the various paperworks and what we need to do to achieve that and why we're doing that at this stage as well. Then we'll look at the next steps when trails are assessed as well. And then we've got a couple of updates from Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland, and then we'll look to have a meeting next week as well, so I'll give you some details of that. So that's what we'll be covering tonight. Just first of all, just looking at what trails are open now. So a bit of good news from the Highlands. As I said, that's Lagan, now fully open. So we have updated the Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland, Storm, Arwen trail update page to indicate that. We're hoping maybe one or two other places will be open by the weekend, and then into next week we're really hoping that a few more places will open in time for Christmas as well. So we will be updating it on Friday, and then we're really hoping that we'll have updates before Wednesday the 23rd. And we can look to see what is open for Christmas as well. So not as usually as positive as we would all like, I'm sure, but it is good to see some progress onto that page as well. So moving on now to what will be the sort of crux of the webinar tonight, we'll be working with John and listening to John as he go through Forestry and Land Scotland, giving us a bit of an update on how we're going to work together to assess the damage and move through that. So I'll pass you over to yourself, John, and take us through that.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, thanks for coming along. Appreciate you giving up your time and stuff there. So we've been looking at areas where we can work, where people could go in and do some survey work for us, and looking at ways of enabling that to happen. So what I've done is I've produced a risk assessment for Forestry and Land Scotland to give to the trail associations that tells you what we're up to, and then what we need is the trail associations to produce a risk assessment back the way about how we're going to go in and inspect for wind blow. And what I've done is I've kind of helped out with that risk assessment, the one that we need coming back the way, to kick it off. So I've started one off that people can build on. So this is the Forestry and Land Scotland risk assessment. What we need to do when people are working on Scotland's national forest and land is we need to tell them about what the hazard and constraints are, location of the hazard, and what the controls will be for that. So I've kept it really simple, just talking about, we do two things. We do Forestry and Land Scotland operate commercial forestry operations, and we operate commercial recreation. So throughout the national estate, so 10% of Scotland or whatever. So how will we control that? We'll inform our staff, our contractors, our visitors and things like that. People will be in doing survey work and having a look at the wind blow stuff. So that's what we'll do. So that's the first thing we'll do. You scroll down a wee bit, go. Brilliant. If there's other events, activities, we've got permissions, people on the estate doing stuff, we'll inform them as well, so they know that there's people about. Now, one of the key things is for us is underground and overground services, electricity, gas pipelines, stuff like that. But what we're doing here, because we're only doing survey work, I'm not going to kind of issue like maps of all the underground, overground services and constraints for the whole of the forest estate here, as long as we don't do activities that are like piercing the ground or sticking things up in the air that could come in contact with electricity cables and stuff. So no activities to take place apart from the inspections of the wind blow areas on the trails. And these inspections will be done with an agreed kind of risk assessment and work system. So that's why we don't have to issue like loads of maps. showing you where all the stuff is, things that. Now, one of the other things is tick-borne diseases. If you're going to be bouraching about in the forest, looking through stuff and walking off trails and things, high chance that you'll pick up ticks. So one of the things we like to inform folk about is how to protect themselves, and if they've got like their dogs and stuff with them, how to protect your dogs and things from Lyme and other tick-borne diseases and things. So there's a wee link off to how you can do that, and then that's also built into the risk assessment. What I've done, or what I've suggested for the risk assessment, and you'll see that when we get to it, is there's a good wee video that you can watch about tick and tick-borne diseases that's done by a mountain bike guy and Dr. Douglas from Fort William, who's a kind of Scotland expert in ticks. So that's going to be our kind of controls for that. So as I say, just a kind of very simple process, but important that we kind of go through stuff like this. We need to do this sort of thing, so that we're kind of informing each other how we're going to do the work and what the controls and things are. So that's the FLS one, just a kind of very simple one that should be suitable and sufficient for what we're doing there. And then that takes us on to what I've kicked off to help out the trail associations was I've started off like a draft risk assessment to give the trail associations an idea of the sort of stuff that we would be looking for as an organisation for them to do. So this is the risk assessment for trail inspection, looking at storm damage, wind blow across the trails, etc. As I say, I've just kind of kicked it off to give them something to kind of work with and things. We'd expect kind of trail associations to have a look at this. They might come up with some other stuff and things. This is just me giving you kind of like an idea of the sort of things that we would be looking for as an organisation. So kind of risk hazard, so members of public access on the trail when the inspection work's happening, who could be harmed, how could they be harmed, what's the control? And this is the key thing, is what we're looking for, is how we're going to control these risks. So the likes of, for doing that, good practice would be to have some kind of sign up on the trail, just kind of saying, trail inspector on the trail, and for the trail inspector to be wearing high-vis clothing so that, cyclists can see them. They would do stuff like, there'd be two of you working there. You'll see that further down, no lone working. So, somebody keeping an eye out for bikes coming, stepping off the trail if you hear bikes, stuff like that. One of the things there. Personal injury as a result of terrain and forest, that's slip, trip, falls, bouraching about, climbing about the place. So, suitable footwear and clothing to be worn. We're going to share the FISA guide, which is the Forest Industry Safety Accord. The 802 guide is all about emergency planning. It's quite a good wee tick list, so that if stuff goes wrong, it gives you an idea of the sort of things that you need to think about. How would I call emergency services? Where's my nearest hospital? Stuff like that. It gives you kind of like a wee aid memo that you can fill out and list the stuff, So, one of the key things there is about planning your routes and walking your routes. If we're going to be, walking up to like wind blow stuff, but not going through wind blow stuff, we'd expect you to kind of look for a way around the wind blow, not walk through it, under it. And if you can't get around it, we'd expect you just to kind of return, if you can't pass through it or get around it easily, sort of thing, that if the trail's blocked, it's, blocked, sort of thing. So following materials whilst carrying out the inspection, stay out of the wind blow tree areas that are across the trails, walk around the blown areas, not through them. That's what I'm saying. If you can't find a way around, return back along the route already used. Now this is a key one, hazardous working, so no lone working inspecting. Working in pairs or threes or whatever, and have some kind of system that people know where you are and they know what sort of time to expect you to come back. And if you don't come back, they need to know what they need to do. So that's where your FISA 802 stuff helps with that as well. So we scroll down a wee bit, you can see, what I've kind of said about there, notification, access to sites, 2 hours is kind of like a reasonable time to kind of set, if you say to somebody, I'm going to be in there for 2 hours, but if they don't come back after that 2 hours, what's going to happen? You need to have kind of thought through that and have some kind of system in place. Here we're back to the Lyme disease stuff. There's the link to the doctor's advice for backpacking and things there. But it's good advice on ticks and tick-borne diseases. There is no such thing as a tick season. Ticks are active in warm weather, so this kind of mild, warm, wet weather, there's ticks crawling about the place. They don't go away over the winter. They're there, sort of thing. COVID-19, so trail inspectors, ill health, keeping physical distancing, follow government guidance on COVID-19 sort of thing. Weather, check the weather forecast, never inspect in adverse weather conditions. Suitable outdoor clothing to be worn for protection, keeping you warm and dry. If something happens to you and you're not well dressed, I remember it can take up to anything from 4 to 6 hours to get rescued out of the forest. If you're not reasonably well dressed, it's a long time to spend out in kind of wet, miserable conditions, and the things there. So that's an idea of the kind of draft risk assessment. So what we need to do is just kind of build on that with the trail associations. The stuff there. Now we've also produced a wee part of the risk assessment. One of the controls was a toolbox talk that people doing the inspections would have a look at the toolbox talk, or we talk through the toolbox talk. Don't know if you got that one available at all, Graham. So very simple toolbox talk. Causes of accidents, people not thinking about what they're doing, incalculable tensions, etc. Wind blow is really nasty stuff to be in and amongst, so you need to avoid being in. So, we're not going to go in it. Cost of accidents to you, pain, suffering, continuing disability, all that sort of stuff. And here's the kind of key bit. So what we're going to do, we're always going to comply with safe working practices, avoid walking through wind blow areas, find routes around them, stop and return back along the route already used if you can't, never start inspection in adverse weather conditions, etc. Use PPE, so like your high vis. And then if we're coming across active work sites and things like that, obey all the safety rules and signs that you come across when inspecting. So we haven't given you a map that shows you where all the active sites and stuff are. So you just need to kind of, when you're doing the inspecting and things, if you come across active sites, you need to stop and not go in them. And then there's your never work alone and have hazardous working system set up, so others know where you are and I can assist by getting help in emergency situations. So one of the key things, forests are inaccessible locations. Often ambulances and things won't go into them. So what you have to do when you phone 999 and need help, you ask for the police and then ask for the police to get mountain rescue and stuff out. They're the ones that can get you out of forests, not your kind of standard ambulance folk. A lot of the times ambulances won't actually drive into forests, they won't go up forest roads and things, stuff there. And then that takes us on to, so how are we going to actually do the inspections? So we've come up with a wee survey template to give you. And Graham's about to magically produce that. Here we go. So we've done a wee example just using kind of Glentress and as a sort of example. So looking for, grid references, as long a grid reference as you can give us. If you can give us a 10-figure grid reference, that's brilliant. If you can't give us a grid reference, lat longs, that works for us as well. The kind of trail name that you're on, notes about the sort of damage, additional notes to kind of help locate. And if you're taking pictures and things, name them to kind of match the trail stuff and give us pictures and things. If you're taking pictures of like wind blow, try and get it so you can see it in context. You can kind of see the size of the wind blow, height of the wind blow. A key thing for us in kind of chainsaw usage and things is how high up off the ground, because you're not allowed to lift the chainsaw up above your kind of shoulder height and things. So if stuff is above shoulder height and things like that, it's beyond like chainsaw use. So if you imagine taking photos, you want to try and get it in context. But photos are great on the things there. You scroll along a wee bit, Graham, and you see and then there's a bit for FLS to fill out. We'll come up when we're doing the kind of triaging, you send the stuff into, we've set up a Dropbox so we can email the stuff into and things. And then it'll get split up to the right FLS folk, and then they'll come up, we'll kind of triage through it, have a look, and next phase of, how we're actually going to do the work. How's that going to get done? So that then takes us on to the sort of like the next steps. So when we assess the trails, if the trail's okay to open, we'll do that kind of digitally, open it, and then we'll do like signage on the ground as we kind of like have a look at it. So the trails that we can open easily, that there isn't anything blocking it, or it's it's able to be used, we'll get it open, and then we'll figure out what we need to do on the ground if we need to kind of keep people on that trail. If folk are going to kind of wander off that trail and try and use other routes that aren't open, we might have to do more signage and stuff actually on the ground and things. But that's kind of like a discussion, some trails might need to be rerouted. So we'll talk about that, see what we can do, if that's a feasible option or whatever. Some trails might need chainsaw work. Now in Windblow, chainsaw work is the kind of lowest down of our hierarchy. Generally, we try and do it with kind of like machines and things if it's quite serious wind blow and stuff. If it's just like odd stems and it's not too bad and it's not too high and things, we might do chainsaw work on it. But we're investigating how we can manage that currently, sort of thing. I'm going to look at that. Some trails, they might just be wiped out. It might just be the wind blows just wiped it out. But we'll just need to keep talking about that. So that's your kind of like your longer term stuff on the bits there. So a very, very quick kind of whiz through, but just to give you an idea of what will be going out. And we've come up with, we've got kind of like a spreadsheet that splits up the trail associations and shows the blocks and trails that we're looking for you to go and help us in. So that will be kind of issued to the trail associations and things there. That's me.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, John. I guess we're just probably at a stage as well where it's worth opening up to questions that you have from John. Quite a bit in that, but certainly open up to questions as well. So,
okay. So we've got at Glentress, 6 trees down, none overhanging, between waymarked descents, red routes, skills area, blue velvet, and Fala Bray trails. Are FLS really doing enough? Please be specific about reasons for this not already being assessed. Are they not aware of the severe economic damage that this is causing local businesses? Why is it taking nearly a month for a risk assessment? Why can't simple diversions be used? There is no issues with FLS at their pleasure. Okay, so like the Glentress, they're hoping to get some of the trails and things open before Christmas. They're kind of, working their way through assessing the stuff there. So you should see progress there, as I say, over the next wee bit. And they've done a fair bit. They're not wanting to kind of like piecemeal open up bits where we're not sure what else is wherever else, sort of thing. And they've been like working in other sort of priority areas, getting bits open, where folk are needing power, needing their water supply sorted, all that sort of stuff and things there. So that's been the kind of like the priorities sort of thing. So it is kind of coming round to this stuff now. And as I say, you should see a big difference over the next week and a half sort of thing.
Next question coming in is just regarding where there isn't a Trails Association to do that. I will try and put into the thing my email address. Please just feel free to email us, myself, to say where it is you're looking to operate, or where it is you're looking to assess, and what you're looking to do, and we can see if we can connect you up. If you are interested in doing it as well, I think this will follow on to the meeting next week as well. We'll probably have more of a meeting next week rather than a webinar. I think it's starting to, the updates have been useful to get out to a lot of different people, a lot of people concerned about it. As we start to work more with trails associations and even kind of local groups as well, then we'll definitely look to have a meeting with everybody next week. So we're really looking to stay in touch with everyone. So I'll answer that by putting my email address into the Q&A, and then please get in touch with us to see where you're working and see what you're doing, and we'll do and then I'll include you and then send you through the documents that are there. Next question coming in. timeline of when we can start inspecting through TVTA, and major part of Golfy could be open now. I believe, John, that Thorny Lee is now open for inspection. We can go straight into Thorny Lee.
Yeah.
I think that there's still a bit of a process to work through, or there's still machines in Caberston and Traquair, is that correct?
Caberston have just finished, and we just need to make sure it's okay to go in after the machines have been in, and then that will let us into Caberston on the bit there. So you would hope by kind of like the weekend that we could be in there inspecting sort of thing.
Is Cademuir good to inspect? I think Cademuir is good to inspect, John. It's quite a Tweed Valley questions coming in, but Cademuir good to expect? I think it is. I don't see any wind blowing there, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I need a wee spreadsheet. I should have opened up my wee spreadsheet here, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll look to confirm that with TVTA just after this call. From that, the economic disruption to businesses, I think that's something that certainly I think we're all aware of that, and we're doing that. It's disasters like this that there is that. We're certainly looking to try and see where there is funding if this continues to support businesses and doing things. And I would definitely recommend raising this up with local authorities as well. But it's I think everybody is working hard to do that as well. The next one here coming down. Yep, there's Dumfries and Galloway. John, do you want to give us a wee update on Dumfries and Galloway? It's obviously a bit more of a challenge because we don't have a Trails Association in that area to work with and do. We're pretty aware of that when we've had conversations through with senior management about that and doing it, and it's definitely something that in Development Marketing Scotland we're really aware about. Potentially the lack of support we can offer down there because we don't have regional staff within that area. So that is a real challenge, and there is no organised group to bring the community in. Something that's a challenge we are aware of and doing it. But John, do you want to offer more comment on that?
Yeah, just it got quite badly hit. There's quite a bit of wind blow stuff. They're busy assessing. We should know more. Hopefully get some stuff open before Christmas and stuff. It's just taking that time to get around it all with the kind of scale of it and staff numbers and things there. And as I say, it's been that kind of priorities of where they've been. They're starting to get further down the list and into these areas now. That's the best we can do on that. I could maybe give you more of an update Friday on that.
Yeah, certainly hoping that the whole more can do that. I do feel for people in Dumfries and Galloway when there isn't when we don't have that Trails Association in place, and I guess it would be worthwhile if you are in Dumfries and Galloway and the other Staines areas as well. Is please get in touch with local authority as well, and just let them know that you could do with more support for mountain biking in the area, and to do that, and we'd be certainly open for more of a conversation as to how we can help and support that within Dumfries and Galloway. It's something we've been trying for a little while now. So, yep. Question coming in as well. The actual practical process as well. So we've now got a risk assessment which has been agreed from FLS to Trails Associations. Trails Associations should go away now and just finalise that the draft risk assessment you sent through, John. Finalise that, send that back to me and you, put that in. We should be able to sign that off quite quickly. And then the Trails Association should be free to then go and carry out the inspection as detailed within that. When the inspection is complete, what happens next? I think there's got to be a triage of looking at it. I think Trails Associations will be in a really good place to help and support additional work being taking place. Probably do it, if I'm honest, in most cases, particularly when it comes to rerouting. As I say, as John mentioned earlier, I think we have had good discussions and investigating how chainsaw work might be able to be contracted through Trails Associations, but we're not there in terms of that being agreed as such yet. So if a Trails Association says a trail is open, FLS have to check this. John, I'll leave that one to yourself.
Yeah, we'll agree it. So, going by your kind of inspections, so Trail Association inspects it, we've got the records and stuff, and then we can agree to open it.
Open trails be communicated to the public. Good question. We think it probably needs to be digitally. We do recommend. I know many trail associations will have their own online platforms, so Facebook, etc. as well. We'd be more than happy. I think that updating on trail forks if you have connections to your local administrators and trail forks for that to happen. And we can also add in additional trails. Like we have been doing in see the Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland Storm Arwen trail update page. We have been updating that with kind of oranges in the likes of a Boyne, which is sort of shown as actually named individual trails which have been opened. So we can do that as well through Developing Mountain Biking in Scotland, which that page has reached, has had great reach over the last week or so. So I'm hoping that answers that question. Priority list for Aberdeenshire and City. Wondering about Cuckhill, Pitficky, Scolty and Drumtochty, John.
Yeah, so Drumtochty, yeah, we're keen to get in there inspecting, so if we can get that set up and running. Karenny is the other one. Panahi and Ballater and Durris, that's the kind of the current list. The other sites are basically wiped out. Canvas of May, that's open already. Stuff there, but the other sites were just kind of like, they're gone basically.
That's great. Any more questions coming in? As well. Got so many people in the room as well. As well, and potential trail builders and other people interested in development mountain biking. We have just launched through new funding we've been able to source through the UK government and UK and Scottish Borders Council, 2 new posts to work in the Tweed Valley. So if you are interested in helping develop mountain biking, we have 1 post which is we'll be working as a regional development coordinator and working to help develop the strategy and make sure we maximise the opportunities that mountain biking brings to the Tweed Valley and the Scottish Borders, and also another post which will be looking to work and deliver the objectives of the Tweed Valley Trails Association. So we're working really closely with that Trails Association and going in and helping with administration and also organising digs. So they have a big role to play within this Storm Arwen recovery as well. So I just wanted to mention that we have so many people on the room there, and information is on the DMBNS website for that. And also there is a new documentary, Trails on Trial, which will be launching on Sunday. So just look out for that. Both myself and John are featuring in that, and I think we'll find it good and interesting. And it's good to see the industry through Specialised promoting these types of trails. And looking at how we can continue to formalise, adopt them, make them happen. A quick question about Pitficky, John. I think Pitficky's in quite a bad way, isn't it? In Aberdeenshire.
A very bad way, yeah. It's like machine clearance in there. Just need to give us time to get in there and get going.
I think I do know that Will Clark, our regional manager in that area, Anna Adele as well, and the various partners that we've got together through Scottish Enterprise, Opportunity Northeast, etc., are all working really hard at looking at making sure that the trails do not shut any longer than they have to, and looking at how we can bring in some funding in to help open up that process as well. So we'll really be doing our best to make sure that the trails across Aberdeenshire, including Pitficky, return as soon as possible.
So Scolty's a lot of machine work in there too.
Quick question as well.
Gordon, Scotland.
Trails Association able to run dig days on trails confirmed as open?
On trails confirmed as open. Yeah, they should be able to.
Yeah. Put that in and through. Okay, folks. Any more questions coming in? Not aware of all your time and everything this evening. also be, as John mentioned, we've got some certain sheets with we've got to set up a Dropbox folder. We'll be sharing that with the Trails Associations. I was going to put in, I was going to put in to get in touch with myself as well. Wasn't I, to see for there. There we go. I'll enter my email address from the anonymous attendee for the person who's running about out with areas with no trails association at present. So please get in touch with myself and we'll see how we can get you included within conversations and documents, etc. Over the next couple of days. Any further questions? Will access roads be prioritised, perhaps to get gravel riding happening, for example, in Carenny Woods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carenny, just checking what we've got to on Carenny. Well, we need to check out Carenny and see, you know, as soon as we know what it's like, that's one of the ones we want them to check. Yeah. We can figure that out. It didn't look too bad on the aerial photograph mapping that I was looking at.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the ones that we've, is that one of the ones that ATA can look at coming in and assessing? Is that right, John?
Yeah, yeah. Carenny's checking out the state of play there. Okay. And that will give us an idea of what we can do there. So, I mean, if it's okay.
Yeah. One final thing I think as well is just to know what we'll do is we'll move next week, next Wednesday, to instead of going to the webinar format, which is a bit us speaking at people, we'll move towards a Zoom meeting format. It will be kind of trails associations and then local groups who get in touch with ourselves who will be invited along rather than these open sessions. Just think of when it turns it a bit more into a conversation and people working together, so we can see everyone's faces and have a bit more of a meeting than a webinar format. Hopefully that fits with everybody as well. Appreciate there's 32 people in the call. It's amazing to see so many people still engaged with this process as well. I know it's taken a couple of weeks to get to this point. It is the biggest storm I think we've seen in 20, 30 years, John. And yeah, and a really hard shift and a hard thing, not what any of us were looking for, particularly this time of year. So yeah, appreciate everybody's time and patience in coming along to this tonight and over the last couple of weeks. Any
excellent
final comments, John?
No, just thanks very much for all the help and help you're about to give us when the trail associations get the lists of places we want them to go and have a look for us. That'll be great, you know.
Yeah, let's get some trails open. It'll be brilliant. Right, thanks. Thanks to everyone as well. Thanks for your help. And yeah, what I say, we'll be in touch with particularly Trails Association in the next few days. And if we're not in touch with you, then please get in touch with us. Thank you. Cheers.